All right, we're back, and the appearances are as before. I did speak briefly with Deputy Boldus and Detective Dietz after they had had an opportunity to acquire more information yesterday afternoon. And have you folks had a chance to talk with them?
Your Honor, if I may, I can maybe streamline this. So we had an opportunity to work with Deputy Boldus, who was able to pull surveillance footage from the basement of the courthouse for the time frame. Prior to doing that, Mr. Gravely and I had a chance to speak with some of the people who are here in support of the McKay's family down in the basement, and two of those people indicated to us that they believed they were the two people in the bathroom that the person in red heard talking about the case. They said obviously they weren't talking about swaying the jury, but they were talking about the case itself, as one woman indicated that the lady in red had come into the stall that she was vacating at the time. So we had surveillance pulled from the basement. We have that available for the court to show this morning. It does show the two ladies that told us that yesterday walking towards the hallway where the bathroom is, the lady in red following approximately 30 seconds later. We then also have video of the two ladies from yesterday exiting the bathroom with the lady in red almost directly behind them, with no one else going in or out during the time period we have. So it is our contention, and the video I think will show that the two ladies that are here today and they are here present in court were the people in the bathroom talking about the case, and neither of them are jurors on this matter. So I believe that one can be put to rest by the video, as well as if you need testimony from either of those two people. For the one on the stairs, we have video of that as well. The lady in yellow does go up the stairs. There are two jurors who can clearly be identified. It's the curly-haired one who's very tan, as well as the gentleman with the red hair and beard. They are coming down the stairs. They pass each other. The groups of people pass each other for approximately 4 to 5 seconds before the jurors proceed to go what is presumably outside. However, that conversation was essentially relayed as that this is ridiculous and we need to put an end to this, or something to that effect, which I think is of less importance to the parties than the one that was supposedly heard in the basement. But I think both can be dispatched by watching video if Your Honor so chooses.
Defense?
Your Honor, those representations are accurate. Mr. Johnson and I did have an opportunity to review the video that was just referenced, and I believe what Ms. Kruzarek summarized is what was contained within the video.
Okay. So I intend to put an end to it now without any further inquiry. And if indeed the statement was made need to put an end to it, it could have been my jokes. But anyway, in any event, we're done, and with that, and we can.
Do you wish to see the video? They're only.
I don't.
Okay.
Do you wish to put it in the appellate record?
You're welcome to do that. Mark it as Exhibit A.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Yes. So it's 3 total video clips, 2 from the basement and 1 from the main stairwell.
All right. So are we ready to go now with the jury?
Right, we are? Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Good morning, everyone. And we hope to continue today without interruption, and let's continue.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Jason Kennedy to the stand.
All right.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Kennedy, can you state your first and last name and spell both your names for the record?
Yes, Jason Kennedy, JASON KENESIE.
How are you employed?
With the Kenosha Police Department.
And how long have you been employed with the police department in Kenosha?
Since September of 2002.
What is your current rank or duties?
I'm a detective with the police department.
How long have you been a detective?
Since February of 2013.
And on or about the date of August 3rd, 2017, were you on duty?
I was, yes.
And was that in your capacity as a Kenosha Police Department detective?
That is correct.
And what shift did you work on that day?
I generally work second shift. I believe I was in early on that day.
And was that to participate in some additional investigation of the death of Olivia McKay?
That is correct.
Did you write some search warrants in pursuit of your duties in that regard?
I did.
And if you recall, what is the first search warrant you wrote on August 3rd, 2017 on that date?
It was a search warrant for the address of 6607 24th Avenue in the Upper.
And whose address was that?
Daniel Tate.
Did you were you involved or present when that search warrant was done?
I was, yes.
And did you collect items that you weren't sure if they would have value, but that might have value in this case?
Yes, I believe there was 8 items collected during that search warrant.
And in general, what types of items did you collect?
So we collected 2 laptop computers, 2 broken LG cell phones, 2 PlayStation 3s, a PlayStation 4, and a blue hooded sweatshirt.
And whose home did you believe that to be? You indicated it was the home of Daniel Tate. Are you speaking of the defendant or of others?
Daniel Tate Sr. and Daniel Tate Jr. lived there, as well as Daniel Tate Sr.'s fiance or girlfriend, whatever the relationship was. Barbara Filson was her name.
After conducting that search warrant, did you write another search warrant again on August 3rd, 2017, pursuant to this investigation?
I did, yes.
And do you recall where that was located?
2318 55th Street.
And whose residence was that?
Jamari Cook's residence.
And who was the, other than Jamari, what other adult resided there, if you know?
Jamari's mother, Lori Ty, resided there.
And pursuant to that search were items taken from Jamari Cook's house, not because you knew they were of value, but because they were potentially of value.
That is correct. I believe a blue iPhone was taken from the residence, a pair of Nike shoes, a flip-flop, one single flip-flop, and a gray hooded sweatshirt, I believe.
And Detective, while you were involved in that search warrant, did you see a person you later identified as Jamari Cook?
That is correct. Jamari Cook was outside of the residence while I was at that residence.
Did you have an opportunity to briefly speak with Mr. Cook?
I did.
And what did you say to him?
I asked Mr. Cook if he'd be willing to come to the police department voluntarily to speak with detectives about the homicide.
Do you know if Mr. Cook did come to the police department voluntarily?
He did.
And ultimately, was it a duty assigned to you to figure out the whereabouts and begin an investigation on a gentleman named Andrew Crom?
That is correct.
And who directed you to be involved in immediately trying to figure out the whereabouts and have contact with Andrew Crom?
It came out during the interview of Daniel Tate Jr. That Andrew Crom...
Objection, Your Honor. I think this calls for a hearsay. I think you can say who directed him, but this is beyond the scope of the question.
Yes, just who gave you the direction to...
I believe I was watching the interview and from a video camera, and it came out, and it was just decided that this needed to happen, opposed to someone actually directing me to do that.
Without talking about what was said, who was being interviewed that you observed where you felt it was necessary to immediately talk to Andrew Crom? Who was being interviewed that you were observing?
Daniel Tate Jr.
And is that a person here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
For purposes of the record, could you indicate where the person you were observing being interviewed was located and what they're wearing today?
He's the gentleman seated at the defense table in a gray button-down shirt.
My eyes are failing me at my age, but it looks like it's striped, and it doesn't look like a button-down. At least not a button-down collar.
It looks like a button-down collared shirt to me.
All right. Yeah. We'll take a vote on the jury later as to.
Did you want him to be more specific?
How about are you talking about the person in the middle?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, very well. Go ahead.
After hearing or after seeing after knowing that interview was taking place and taking it upon yourself to go find Mr. Crum, what physically did you do to look for an Andrew Crum?
I searched records for his most current address, and I drove out to his most current address, which was 5416 61st Street.
Were you able to find an individual named Andrew Crum at that location?
Yes.
And was he of an age quite similar to Daniel Tate and Jamari Cook?
That's correct. I don't recall his exact birthday. I believe he was born in the year of 1999.
And when you spoke to Mr. Crum, did he have any idea the purpose of your visit initially?
No.
And when you spoke to Mr. Crum, did you, what if anything, did you ask him about accounting for his whereabouts on the night of July 23rd into July 24th?
Well, I informed him that his name had came up into in a homicide investigation, and I asked him if he'd be willing to come to the police department, which he did voluntarily. We drove him down there, and then subsequently during that interview, I asked him his whereabouts on that night. He had stated that he was at his grandfather's
Our
house.
objection calls for it's hearsay.
Sustain.
So when you were speaking to Mr. Crum, what, if anything, can you say about whether Mr. Crum would have any knowledge that you were going to ask him about July 23rd and July 24th? Would he have any?
Calls for speculation as to what Mr. Crum was thinking or what his knowledge was.
Well, sure. Did you tell Mr. Crum at any point before you began to talk to him about July 23rd or 24th that you were going to be asking him about those dates?
No.
Did you provide him any written communication or any other source of notice that you would be speaking to him about July 23rd or 24th before you began to verbally ask him that question?
No.
And at the point that you first had contact with Mr. Crum, did he know you were coming?
No.
And at the point that that Mr. Crum accompanied you down to the station, is that correct?
Correct.
Did he have an opportunity, or did he take advantage of an opportunity to speak or be in contact with anyone else that you were aware of?
No.
When you spoke to him about July 23rd and 24th, without telling me the contents, did he provide you information regarding his whereabouts on the 23rd and 24th such that it caused you to do something else?
Yes, he did.
And after he provided you that information, what is the next thing you did?
I called David Duggar, his grandfather.
And when you called Mr. Duggar, had Mr. Crum had any opportunity to speak to Mr. Duggar since you had heard information from Mr. Crum about his whereabouts on the 23rd and 4th?
No, he did not.
Did Mr. Duggar have any reason that you're aware of to know that you were going to make a call to him?
No, he did not.
Did Mr. Duggar have any reason that you're aware of to know that you were going to ask him anything about the 23rd or 24th of July?
No, he did not.
Are you aware of any way that Andrew Crum and Mr. Duggar are either related or connected?
They are grandfather and grandson.
And let me ask you whether, how soon after you heard the information from Mr. Crum about the 23rd and 24th of July were you in contact with Mr. Duggar?
Fairly quickly, Mr. Crum was still being interviewed or still in the interview room at the time.
Did Mr. Crum have any ability to contact anyone before you were able to speak to Mr. Duggar?
No, he did not.
And why was it that you would want to be sure you were in contact with Mr. Duggar soon and before Mr. Crum could contact Mr. Duggar?
Certainly, situations like this where there's an alibi, we wouldn't want to give someone an opportunity to tell another person, say I'm at this place, say I did this with you. So it's just the most practical, best way to get information and to confirm information that we've been told without someone corrupting that information.
And without giving the contents, was Mr. Duggar able to provide you information in answer to the questions you had about July 23rd and 24th and his grandson, Andrew Crom.
That is correct, he did.
Now, Detective Kennedy, at some point prior to August 3rd, 2017, were you tasked to take a look at any videos from local businesses in Kenosha regarding the whereabouts of the Pontiac vehicle, either silver or gray in color?
I was assigned to view all the video that had been collected in the case.
And when you did that, did you have an opportunity to sort of try to match by time and place what the course of conduct was of a vehicle that had left Lou Perrine's just after 10 p.m.?
Yes, I did.
And did you observe the Lou Perrine's video?
I did observe that.
So were you aware that in that video, Olivia McKay is said to get into a vehicle and that vehicle then travels in some locations in Kenosha?
That is correct.
And starting as your starting point, that video from Lou Perrine's, what were you able to garner or what were you able to find regarding other video and where it placed the vehicle that Olivia McKay had last been seen directly connected to at Lou Perrine's?
Sure. On the video, you can see Olivia McKay drive out of the parking lot and turn northbound onto Sheridan Road. I was able to observe video from Auto Medics, which is a mechanic shop. The address of that place is 4500 Sheridan Road, and I continued to see Olivia McKay's vehicle traveling northbound on Sheridan Road. The next video that collected that showed Olivia McKay's car traveling northbound was Kenosha Heating and Cooling. That address is 4421 Sheridan Road, and I again observed Olivia McKay's vehicle traveling northbound on Sheridan Road. The next video that I saw was from Westtown Foods. The address of Westtown Foods is 4222 Sheridan Road. From that video, I was able to observe Olivia McKay's vehicle traveling northbound, and it turns into the parking lot of a Dairy Queen restaurant at 4301 Sheridan Road. Olivia McKay's vehicle is in that parking lot for a short period of time, approximately a minute and a half to 2 minutes. The vehicle eventually travels out to 43rd Street and makes a left-hand turn onto Sheridan Road and continues to travel southbound on Sheridan Road.
So let me stop you. So it's changed directions on Sheridan?
That is correct.
Okay.
Changed directions. I was then able to see the same vehicle from Kenosha Heating and Cooling, 4421 Sheridan Road, continue to travel southbound. You can see the vehicle turn its brake lights on, and you can see the vehicle turn a right turn signal on from that video. From the video from Auto Medics, which is 4500 Sheridan Road, I am able to again see the same thing. The video traveling northbound, the right brake lights turn on, and the right turn signal turns on, and it appears that it's turning right onto the next street. I can't actually see the turn, but that's what it appears to be. The next street would have been 46th Street.
And is that where you lose track of the vehicle then?
After a short period of time, approximately 10 minutes, you can see that you then see the vehicle traveling northbound on Sheridan Road, approximately, I believe, 20 to 38 hours, according to the timestamp on Westtown Foods. You see it from Westtown Foods traveling northbound.
Let me stop you. So whatever happened after the turn on to 46th, so after that turn, you are not able to obtain any video that showed people getting in and out of the vehicle or what happened to the vehicle after it turned on 46th for that period of time until you see the vehicle again on the Westtown Foods now going north again?
That is correct,
okay.
Yes.
And are in any of the videos you've spoken about so far, are you able to identify the driver of the vehicle, the identity of a driver, how many people are in the vehicle? Are these videos that allow you that kind of detail or no?
The only video that would have showed that is the video on Lou Perini's where you can see Olivia McKay getting into the vehicle. Other than that video, no, you can't tell who's in a car or anything like that.
All right, so I interrupted you. Westtown Foods headed north, which would essentially be towards Racine, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And then I saw video from Summers House, which is an establishment in Summers in the county, 1548 Sheridan Road. I see the vehicle again traveling northbound about 4.5 minutes after the Westtown Foods video.
What's the next video you review that is of significance to you?
So the next video would be from Westtown Foods again. This is about an hour later, approximately 23:38. I see the vehicle traveling southbound on Sheridan Road. So it would be coming from the north, traveling southbound, and it continues to travel southbound. I see the vehicle travel southbound again on the Automatics video and on the Southport or Kenosha Heating and Cooling video as well.
And do you know anything about what happens next on the video?
No, yeah, the last you see is the vehicle traveling northbound or southbound. I'm sorry.
Nothing else?
Mr. or Ms.
It's going to be me. Thank you. I just have a few questions for you. Just to be clear, when you spoke with Jamari Cook on August 3rd, Daniel Tate was already in custody, right?
I don't recall that. I don't know exactly when Daniel Tate was in custody or not. I can't remember.
You didn't see Daniel Tate at the house when you were there, right?
No, he was not there.
And when you spoke with Jamari Cook, you told him that that officers wanted to question him in a homicide investigation, right?
Yes, that is correct.
You talked about Andrew Crom, that you spoke with him and you spoke with his grandfather. Did you ever speak with Mr. Crom's girlfriend, Brittany Larson?
No, I did not.
After your discussion with Andrew Crom, did you ever obtain any type of documentation?
I guess I don't understand.
Did you obtain any documentation to verify what Andrew Crom had told you?
I guess I don't understand what kind of documentation you're asking for. I mean, I took a written statement from Mr. Crom.
Did you obtain documentation such as like a work order?
No, I did not. No.
Or a contract?
No.
Your conversation with Andrew Crom was recorded, right?
Yes.
Your conversation with his grandfather over the telephone was not recorded, right?
I believe our telephones are recorded all the time, but I don't believe anyone obtained a copy of that recording.
So although they may be recorded, you have to do something to sort of save that conversation, right?
That's correct. You have to request it.
Okay. And that didn't occur here.
That is correct, yes.
Those are all of my questions.
Any question?
After speaking to Mr. Crom and his grandfather, did you feel any of those additional things that were just asked about by defense counsel were necessary?
No, I did not.
Nothing else?
Any question?
No questions.
Let me step down.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. State calls Detective Jerry Kaiser to the stand.
solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please be seated.
Detective Kaiser, can you state your first and your last name and spell both your names for the record?
Gerald Kaiser, Gerald Kaiser.
How are you employed?
I'm a detective for the Kenosha Police Department.
How long have you been so employed?
26 years with the department.
How long have you been a detective?
Approximately 12 years.
During the time period of late July and early August 2017, were you asked to participate in obtaining video from a Wheaton Franciscan hospital?
Yes.
You remember what day that was, if you know?
It was August 4th of 2017.
And was that pursuant to an investigation regarding a vehicle belonging to Olivia McKay that had then been found?
Yes.
And where is Wheaton Franciscan Hospital located in general? Not the specific address, but in general.
It's in Racine, Wisconsin.
And were you able to obtain video pursuant to this investigation?
Yes.
What were you looking for specifically?
The information I had is we were looking for Ms. McKay's vehicle, which was a Grand Prix, and then to see who was operating it.
And were you focused on the date of July 24th, 2017?
Yes.
Was that because you were instructed to focus on that date?
That's correct.
And so how physically do you go and get hospital video? Is there a person to contact there? What do you do?
Yes. Myself and Detective Traxler drove to the hospital. We made contact with the security supervisors and told them what we were looking for, and then they assisted us.
And were you able to do that in this case?
Yes.
Were they able to show you video while you were there, or is that something you had to review later?
They showed us, they allowed us to watch the video footage, and then we obviously saw what we needed and asked them to make a copy of the vehicle, the video of the vehicle that we needed.
And if you recall, was that done while you were still present?
Yes.
And were you and Detective Traxler able to leave with that evidence, if you know?
I don't believe we could take the videos, the discs that day, but they were going to get them for us.
Have you had an opportunity to review what we're now going to present to you as exhibit, I believe it's 3. I'm sorry, 2. One more time. We'll check. Apologize. Have you had an opportunity to review what's been marked as State's Exhibit 3 prior to coming in here to see if it is something that is that you recall?
Yes.
And is that the video you reviewed back at Wheaton Franciscan back in the time period of August 4th, 2017?
It is.
And is it divided into multiple clips?
Yes.
And then also at some point did you obtain what I'm going to call a screenshot, one individual photo?
Yes.
And why did you obtain that?
In speaking with the security personnel at the hospital, we obtained a screenshot of Daniel Tate and Jamari Cook walking into the hospital, and they told us that they couldn't give us video footage because of HIPAA rules related to other people that were walking into the hospital.
And so were you able to view that screenshot at the location?
Yes.
And when you saw that screenshot, were you familiar with the parties that were of interest to investigators in this case?
Yes.
And so when you looked at that picture, were you able to compare what you knew to be the identities of the persons of interest to the photo?
Yes.
And do you recall when is that a screenshot photo from? What time and date, if you know?
Well, it was from the 24th of July, 2017. It was approximately 10:30, 10:35 in the morning.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 3. I'm going to ask you to look at this clip and just see if it is something you recall, if it is the same clip that you recall seeing. And Detective, at the point that you begin to see it, I need you to have us zoom in. We have the ability with this camera to zoom it in so we can see it in more detail. So, Detective, let me know, is this first clip from 10:25 in the morning on July 24th?
Yes.
And this, again, does that appear to be the Wheaton Franciscan Hospital grounds that you remember seeing in the video on the date you obtained it?
Yes.
So where should we be focused on this area, on the video?
You should be focusing on the upper right-hand corner of the parking lot.
Okay, can you pause the video for just a moment?
Right.
The pointer one more time. The old school pointer. Right. Oh, sorry, I thought you were using mine. Detective, if you just want to walk up, please, to the exhibit, sorry, and just give us an idea where we should be focused, and then I'm going to ask you, at the point where you think that something comes in a frame that's of interest, to tell us, and we'll zoom. But first, let us know where we should be looking for that.
Jessica.
And detective, is that the essentially entry to the parking lot from that angle? If you know.
My understanding of the flow of traffic is you would come in this way and then over into that corner.
So that's essentially where you would end up if you were finally making your decision where to park?
That is correct.
Okay. Playing it? Okay. So is there anything so far of interest?
Yes, Olivia McKay's vehicle is right here.
Is there something happening now?
Yes, the two occupants are exiting the vehicle.
Stop. Can you stop it for just a minute? Okay, so one individual came from, tell me what you saw.
Based on my understanding of who we were looking for, it appears that Jamari Cook exits the driver's side and Daniel Tate exits the passenger side of the vehicle.
Thank you. So, Detective, based on your review of the grounds, what is the building that they've just proceeded towards there?
The main entrance to the hospital.
Okay. Now, did you also have an opportunity to review a video that appeared to be individuals coming out of that same hospital and, again, being in the area of Olivia McKay's car?
Yes, eventually those two subjects leave the hospital approximately 15 minutes later and approach the vehicle again.
Okay, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you a clip then of that. So what we'll first see is individuals, again, proceeding away from the building we just saw people enter.
That is correct.
Okay. And what time is this?
Right now it's 10:38 a.m. on the 24th of July.
That would be the morning, correct?
Yes.
So do you see individuals walking in the direction of Olivia's vehicle?
Yes.
Can you see what either individual is doing during this period of time?
Yes. Based on the video, it appears Daniel Tate is taking photographs with it looks like a phone of the car. He'll walk around towards the back corner and it appears he's taking another photo. And once they're done, they eventually walk back into the hospital.
Now, Detective, I'm correct that at this point, Olivia McKay's body has not been found. Isn't that right? By the 24th at 10 a.m.?
That is correct.
Now, Detective, did you have a chance to further review a video to see when these individuals left the hospital and utilized this car to leave the Wheaton Franciscan?
Yes, it was about approximately 1:40 in the afternoon that same day.
And is that also captured on video?
Yes, it is.
Are we going to have an opportunity to see who drives the vehicle away and who is a passenger as they leave?
Yes.
And has the vehicle moved locations in terms of within the lot up until this point?
No.
I'd ask you to take a look at this segment of video then, and again, I'll ultimately ask you if any of these video segments appear to be different from what you saw at Wheaton Franciscan when you reviewed video on August 4th. So again, are we focused at the same entrance or exit of the, and now in the parking lot as individuals are leaving?
Yes.
And what, if anything, can you say about which individuals we're looking at now?
Well, you have Jamari Cook and Daniel Tate exiting right there.
And which is which?
Daniel Tate would be in the light gray sweatshirt, and Jamari Cook would be in the black shirt. He's the larger individual.
So who's driving?
Daniel Tate is getting into the driver's seat. Jamari Cook is getting into the passenger seat.
So, Detective, we talked briefly about a screenshot or a picture and was that screenshot taken in a entrance or exit of the hospital on one of the three, or on one of the occasions depicted in the video?
Yes.
And do you remember which one of them? Was it at the 10:25 original arrival, or was it when they came back after pictures at 10:38?
I don't recall.
Okay. I'm going to show you that picture, and so mechanically, who took the picture, if you know?
Would have been one of the security directors for the hospital.
Okay. And this picture is, though, on July 24th, and it's contemporaneous with the videos you've shown us.
Yes.
All right. And can you see in those pictures any individuals of interest?
Yes.
Okay. So point out who you see.
Daniel Tate, Jamari Cook.
All right. And that appears to be the entrance to the hospital.
Yes.
Thank you. You have mentioned Jamari Cook and Daniel Tate in your discussions today. You can return to the seat. Thank you. Is the person that you are identifying as Daniel Tate, is that person here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
For purposes of the record, Detective, can you point out where that person you're identifying as Daniel Tate is located here today and what he is wearing today?
Yes, Mr. Tate is seated at the defense table. He's wearing a white and black striped shirt, as a goatee.
What would you say about the collar?
The collar?
Well, is it a button-down collar?
It's a button-down collared shirt.
I've been with the eye doctor next Wednesday. Tuesday. All right, go ahead.
Perhaps your eyes are fine in your fashion sense, not above below average. Thank you, Detective. I have no further questions. Oh, I'm sorry. One more. Apologize, Detective Kaiser. You've looked at the videos and the single photo from Exhibit 3. Are those a true and accurate depiction of what you saw when you gathered this evidence on August 4th, 2017?
Yes.
Is it changed or altered in any way from when you first discovered this evidence when you went to the hospital?
No.
I'd move admission then of Exhibit 3, Your Honor.
Is there objection?
No objection.
No further questions.
They have that thing. Thanks. You may step down.
Oh, Cross?
Oh,
Say no questions? I apologize.
let's make sure.
I thought you said no objection.
She did say no objection, and
Heard no
perhaps
questions.
I jumped the gun. Do you have questions? Okay.
No questions. Thank you.
Maybe he means the button's down front. You may step down.
State calls Samantha Whitaker.
Stand, please. You swear to the testimony about to give this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. You may be seated.
Ms. Whitaker, the sounding here is very difficult, so outdoor voice and right in the microphone. Do that for me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Whitaker, can you state your first and your last name and spell both your names for the record?
Samantha Whitaker, SamanthaWhitaker.
And Ms. Whitaker, how old are you today?
18.
Ms. Whitaker, do you know someone whose name is Daniel Tate Jr.?
Yes, sir.
And is the person you know as Daniel Tate Jr. here in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
And for purposes of the record, could you point that individual out and say what that person is wearing today?
Braids?
Pointing at the accused.
Ms. Whitaker, how do you know the defendant?
I dated him in 2015.
In the summer of 15?
Yes, sir.
How old were you at that time, about?
About 15.
And how did you come to be dating him?
We met through a mutual friend.
Okay. And where did the defendant reside during the period that you were dating him?
I don't know.
Where did he live? So when, if ever, did the defendant stay with you?
Oh, yeah. He stayed with me for days, or like every other day or something.
Okay. Meaning overnights?
Yeah.
And Ms. Whitaker, at some point, did you and the defendant have a sexual relationship in the summer of 2015?
Yes, sir.
And during that period of time, what, if anything, can you say about whether whether you were ever strangled or choked during sexual activity with the defendant?
I was.
You were?
Yes.
And so what physically do you remember happening to you during sexual activity with the defendant that caused you to feel you were being choked or strangled?
One hand on my neck and squeezing.
And did you have trouble breathing sometimes when that occurred?
Not often, but sometimes.
All right. And how often was that a part of the sex act that occurred with the defendant? So how many times do you think he put his hand to your neck in a way that would be in some way cutting off your air?
A few, maybe 10.
10 or so?
Yeah.
All right.
Folks, you're hearing evidence about something that's not an incident for which the defendant is not now on trial. He's not accused of any wrongdoing arising out of this. But it's being admitted for a limited purpose, and that is to show whether the defendant had a modus operandi in dealing with others of strangulation. And it is not to be taken as evidence that he's got a character trait or a bad character and that he acted in conformity with that trait on this occasion. It is merely to allow you to use the evidence to determine whether or not the defendant would customarily employ this technique with another, and it's limited to that use. Any question about this at all? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Greeley.
What, if anything, do you remember about whether the defendant asked you before he started doing this for the first times?
There wasn't really a conversation about it.
I have nothing else.
Thank you. You said that there really wasn't a conversation about it, but you continued to have sex with Mr. Tate, right?
Yes, sir.
So after it happened the first time, you didn't say, forget this, I'm done having sex with him, right?
No, sir.
You said that it was only sometimes while Mr. Tate did this that you had trouble breathing, right?
Yes, sir.
So not every time, correct?
No, sir.
When you're saying that Mr. Tate would put his hand around your neck, that was only while having sex, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated, I believe, that he would put one of his hands on your neck, right?
Yes, sir.
Just one hand, though.
Yes.
Ms. Whitaker, have you ever been convicted of a crime?
Yes, sir.
How many times?
Once.
Those are all of my questions.
I have no questions on this.
You may step down there.
Just thanks for the testimony you're about to give in this matter, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Will you be seated?
State is calling Officer White for the stand.
E-R-I-C-H.
Looking for just one picture. Officer Weiner, can you state your first and last name, please, and spell both your names for the record?
Officer Eric Widener, W-E-I-D-N-E-R.
And how do you spell your first name?
Eric, E-R-I-C-H.
And Officer Widener, how long have you been employed as an officer?
18 and a half years.
All for the Kenosha Police Department?
Correct.
And were you on duty, Officer Widener, and involved in a search warrant back on August 3rd, 2017?
Yes.
Was the location of that search warrant at 902 46th Street, lower apartment?
Yes.
And did you believe that residence to be the grandmother of an individual who was a suspect, a gentleman named Daniel Tate?
Correct.
And when you did that search warrant, did you have a specific duty pursuant to that search warrant?
I was there to assist with the evidence collection.
And is that something you routinely do as one of your duties as an officer with the Kenosha Police Department?
Yes, I'm the lead evidence technician for third shift.
Pursuant to those duties, are you a person then who physically collects evidence?
Yes.
Are you also a person who takes pictures at a search warrant scene?
Correct.
And in this case, did you do both?
Yes.
Let me turn your attention to a couple of exhibits. At the home of Patsy Tate on August 3rd, 2017, did you have an opportunity to look and see the state of disarray or cleanliness of that residence?
Yes.
How would you describe that overall?
Cluttered, to say the least.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 20. And I'm going to ask you if that looks familiar to you in the context of what we've talked about.
Yes.
What's that a picture of?
It's just the overall picture inside the apartment, showing before any detectives or I went through any of the stuff, just to show what it was like when we first entered.
So this is not as a result of officers having moved or searched any items thus far?
No.
I'm now going to show you it's been marked as State's Exhibit 16. Again, is that a picture of the residence?
Yes.
Same residence we've just spoken about?
Correct.
All right. Again, it's showing a sort of the general condition of items and space in that residence.
Yes, there's items piled on top of items.
Was this, if you know, the living room in the residence?
Can I see the picture?
Yeah.
I can't see it up there. Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 15 and ask you if you recognize that picture in the context of the search warrant.
It's also the living room. I was standing in the doorway of the kitchen facing southbound.
And were you asked or were you told at some point that a focus of the search warrant should be the living room?
One of them, yes.
And why was that a focus per your instructions?
I was told Daniel Tate was staying there.
In the living room?
In the living room area, yes.
And pursuant to that particular thing, did you at some point take pictures of the location of any gloves?
Yes.
So I'm going to first show you this picture. Is there any way
It's a glare.
This is a lot of a glare on this. I suppose it's just because of the nature of it.
You might try changing the focus. There's a plus minus.
Try that.
Here.
You might also try the distance.
All right, I'm just going to go old school here. So that's all right. No, thank you. Yeah. Do you see in this picture any gloves?
I had to look at the picture.
Sure,
It's too much of a
please,
glare.
take a look at the picture.
Yes.
And now I'm going to ask you to simply, by putting your fingers on the picture, direct the jury to where you see gloves on here.
Sorry.
Okay.
I can't see it again. Sorry. Yeah, I can.
See?
Yeah, lower right. Was that where I saw it?
Right here.
Right there? Okay. So there's a blue area right there?
Yes.
And then I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 21. And I'm going to ask you, is that a close-up of the location you just pointed to in picture 20?
Yes, that's a close-up.
All right. Did you take these pictures, if you know?
Yes.
All right. And did you do that because you wanted persons to know exactly where you saw those gloves at the time that before you moved them in any way?
Correct. Whenever I do evidence, I do an overall, medium, and then a close-up to show the correlation of where the object is.
And again, these are in the living room of that residence?
Yes.
And when you first observed these gloves, how confident are you that no officers had moved any of the items during the search warrant before you took these pictures?
No one was in there with me when I was taking the pictures.
And you didn't move them before you took the picture, is that correct?
No.
So as to exhibits 20 and 21 depicting the gloves, are those a true and accurate copy of what you saw back on August 3rd, 2017 in the living room of Patsy Tate's home?
Yes.
And then did you eventually obtain those gloves as part of the case?
Yes.
Judge, I'm just going to, just because of the glare difficulties, I'm going to ask that we have an opportunity to publish these two pictures to the jury.
Is there objection? Go ahead.
Can I do that now? So, Judge, we haven't done this with them. After they look at them, should they pass them on?
Take a look at one and pass it on, and then, yeah.
Officer, I'm now going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 46. I'm going to ask you to put gloves on and to take the contents out of Exhibit 46 if you can. After you can feel free to read whatever notations are on there first. Based on how the notations are made on the packaging itself, were you the person who placed this in evidence, or can you tell?
It looks like I was the original one. It looks like it's been opened, possibly by the crime lab.
Sure. But previously you were the one who placed this in the original evidence bag?
Yes, you can see my initials underneath the other tape.
Okay. And you can pull that out and just tell me, do you recognize that in the context of the pictures I've shown you, 20 and 21?
Appear to be the gloves that I collected at the scene.
Okay. Those are the gloves from the picture?
Correct.
All right. And those are the gloves you took the photographs of at the time?
Yes.
Can you tell me if those are right side or inside out at this time?
They're inside out.
All right. And was that the condition they were in when you first observed them on the floor in Patsy Tate's living room?
Correct.
And officer, are you a person who has to wear gloves like this as part of your duties on occasion?
Yes, anytime I collect any evidence, I put gloves on.
When you take these type of gloves off, how do they usually appear?
Typically, they trap your body heat, so you sweat in them. And to take them off one at a time like a normal glove, it usually doesn't happen. They rip on you. So typically, we turn them inside out when we take them off.
So typically, if you take them off, they'd appear that way?
Yes.
Is that consistent with the appearance of the exhibit I showed you?
Yes.
So when I talk to you about Exhibit 46, do these appear to be still in the same condition as the gloves that you recovered, again, from Patsy Tate's living room on August 3rd, 2017?
Yes.
They appear to be changed or altered in any way that you observed?
Not that I noticed.
And in terms of the pictures I showed you of pictures 20 and 21, again, are those pictures that accurately depict the gloves and their condition on that date?
Yes.
Do those pictures appear changed or altered in any way?
No.
Judge, I move admission of exhibits 20, 21.
Is there objection?
46.
No objection.
The objection to 46? Received.
Officer, were you also at a point asked to focus on the kitchen, specifically under the sink at Patsy Tate's home on this date?
Yes, I was directed by one of the detectives on scene.
And was that because it appeared people were interested in whether any garbage bags were located at the residence?
Yes.
And were you directed at some point then to take pictures of specific boxes of garbage bags at the residence?
Yes, I was.
So first I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 17. Again, ask you, can you tell what that's a picture of?
It's a picture of the cabinet underneath the kitchen sink with the doors open.
Is that a picture you took?
Yes.
Is that a picture from the kitchen sink under the cabinet at Patsy Tate's home that we've spoken about so far?
Yes.
Does that appear to be a true and accurate view of what the conditions were and what it looked like in Patsy Tate's area that you're depicting in the photograph on that date?
Yes.
Any changes or alterations you see?
Not that I noticed.
then again, you indicated you do close-up photos. Was there something that caused you to want to focus your attention in that picture?
Underneath the sink in the cabinet, there's some boxes of garbage bags.
So I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 18 and ask you, is that close-up picture that you're talking about?
Yes.
Again, is that a picture you took?
Yes.
And is the purpose of this picture to get a close-up of the garbage bags located under Patsy Tate's kitchen sink?
Yes.
Any changes or alterations in this picture from the conditions you remember at the time?
No.
Judge, again, I'd move admission of Exhibits 17 and 18.
No objection.
Proceed.
If you know, were some garbage bags then taken from the residence?
I collected the garbage bags.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Question?
Patsy Tate was the primary resident of that apartment, correct?
When I got there, a woman was sitting in the hallway in a chair, older lady. She said her name was Patsy Tate, and she was residing there.
And she was the renter of that residence?
That's what she said.
When you entered the residence, it was extremely cluttered, right?
Yes.
There were materials littering the floor.
It was to the point there's some paths to get in kind of through some of the rooms.
And there was an assortment of items all over the place.
Just like the pictures described, yes.
You indicate that during your search, you located some gloves on the floor.
Correct.
There's nothing about those gloves that can tell us how long they might have been there, correct?
Based on just viewing them?
Correct.
Based by just looking at them, I can't make that determination.
Right. You can't say how long those gloves might have been sitting there on the floor, right?
I cannot.
To your knowledge, were those gloves ever sent out for any sort of DNA testing, anything like that?
My primary purpose, excuse me, my primary purpose when I'm at a scene like that is to document it, photograph it, collect it, place it into a secure evidence at our department. After that, it's up to other people involved in the case, usually detectives, supervisors, stuff like that, to send it out to determine what needs to be tested or not. That wasn't my role on that scene. My role is just to collect, so to answer the question, I have no idea.
Okay. So just to clarify, you're not sure if those gloves were ever sent out for testing, correct?
I am not.
You indicated in your testimony, and the pictures indicate that there were cleaning supplies found underneath the sink.
The pictures do, yes.
No further questions. Thank you.
I have no questions on those.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Let's take a break at this point, and please don't talk about the, right here. Case during the break. We'll see you in about 10 to 15 minutes.